friends and family. How are you guys doing tonight? So I got asked a question. I got emailed by a student who was asking for more tips on how to sit the trot, especially a horse that has a rough trot. This is something that's very interesting to work on. So a lot of it has to do with body position for us. So I've got my trusty old barrel horse here, and I'm going to demonstrate a few things for you. One of the main things that we have to work on as riders is going against our instincts when we want to ride. Most people, the trot gets bouncy and they're bouncing along and they kind of want to sit up taller. And what happens is that kind of lifts your bottom up. So their horse is going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And they're not in a good rhythm, so they're bouncing. And their back is arched and they're too far forward. So they keep losing their balance. And they can't seem to figure out how to get back. And that's usually because people have told them, well, sit up straight when you ride. Well, what happens is when you sit up straight, you arch your back and you actually lift your pelvis up. So what I want you to learn to do is tuck your tail under you. It doesn't take a whole lot, but you want to think about rolling your tailbone under and sitting. Now, that doesn't actually change my leg position here. My legs can still stay in a good spot and they can be like this, arched out, or I can keep my tail tucked under. And this is going to keep you stronger through your core and your back. You want to lengthen your lower back so that you can sit here like this when your horse is trotting, okay? A lot of times when the trot is feeling too bouncy, it's because you're leaning too far forward or your back is arched like this and you're bouncing. You want to keep tucked and you want to keep soft in your lower back. The other thing that people tend to want to do is they're wanting to kind of constantly pull on their horse, which is pulling them forward. So instead, what I suggest people do is get really good, ride with one rein a little shorter, ride on a circle, and just kind of get one rein so you can turn your horse and put the other hand down on their neck so that you can kind of push yourself into the saddle. Now, a lot of people want to pull, but as soon as you pull, you're leaning forward. If you push, you're pushing yourself backwards and you're lengthening that low back so that you can actually sit there with them. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And you can just guide with one rein instead of having to try to guide with two hands. Just use one in the beginning. When you get your seat a lot better, then you can start picking up two reins. Again, you're gonna be, if you're working on yourself for your horse's sake, put your horse on just a circle. Just get that one rein down, kind of set them there on the circle. You can kind of maneuver them a little bit with just one rein, and then work yourself on that sitting trot. The other thing I really suggest people learn to do is to start moving your shoulders a little bit with your horse. So the horse's legs are moving, right? And they're not just moving in an up and down. We think of a trot as an up and down movement. It's actually not. It's a forward. It has a little up, but it's really reaching forward if your horse is moving correctly. So what you want to do is you can use the shoulders, and you can either look at the shoulders or touch the shoulders, or you can just work on it just like this. So I tell people, don't just sit there like this, but actually move with your horse. Move that shoulder forward with them. Think about what their arms, their legs are doing, and mimic that so that you guys become more of a unit. So I like to tell people with just one hand in the beginning, usually the inside leg, and you just want to sit there and you're trotting along, and all of a sudden you start kind of trotting like this in the beginning, and eventually it might kind of turn into something just little. It's small, and I'm going to demonstrate this on a horse as well in a little bit, and you'll be able to watch me kind of do the exaggerated moves. So you can move your shoulders when you're doing that sitting trot, and then you can make sure your tail is tucked, make sure your low back is soft. And then the next thing you can work on is actually work on your posting trot. The better you post the trot, you're going to be working all your core muscles and your leg muscles. You're actually going to build a better sitting trot as well. So when you're posting, I want you to really tuck your tail up under, swing forward, and then sit back down softly. Swing forward and sit back down. It's not just arching your back and going up and down on their back like this. You can probably see how uncomfortable that is. It's uncomfortable for me, and it's going to be uncomfortable for your horse. So really keep your back rounded as you post. Swing up through the hip joint and then sit back down. Up through the hip joint and sit back down. Now sometimes you might get a little unbalanced when you first do this, so you can use that neck or use your horn, and I suggest pushing. Don't pull on that horn. Push on the horn a little bit, come up, push back and really soften that low back. Come up, soften that low back. Pull up with your core, soften your back. Pull up with your core, soften your back. All right? So I'm going to demonstrate that with a horse here that's not the smoothest. I'm going to go ride Zane for you, and I hope you'll be able to see when I'm posting correctly.